All right, let's talk Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If you don't know this channel too well, I am a big Buccaneers fan, so I was definitely watching this one, a little bit closer than the other drafts. And as a whole, I like this draft. I think that there are it's a couple picks I did not love personally, but I think as a whole, this was a good draft, although I am going to have my critiques about some of these picks as well. So first, just to set up the chart, what you're looking at, the first number you see all the way to the left is when the player was drafted. The next number over is when they were projected to be drafted according to the consensus big board. So how good of a prospect does the consensus big board consider them to be? Then the name and the position. So first pick, Graham Barton. I really like this pick. Someone corrected me in the comments below, and I appreciate it. I had said he hadn't played center before. He has. He played it his freshman year at college, so which I didn't evaluate that year. So that's good to see that he has done that. They're drafting him to be a center. He should be a good center. I did personally have Jackson Powers-Johnson higher on my board, but again, I like them both. I wasn't I don't think it's a massive gap between either of them, and plenty of people had Barton. In fact, the consensus was Barton was higher than Powers-Johnson, so I could just be wrong about that. But yeah, a lot of really good stuff. I still think there is a bit of a projection getting a guy who it's been a couple years since he played center and now moving him to play center. There is some projection there, but I think that you give him a full training camp, get him to snap and everything. I'm sure it'll work out. Should be a good player for them, and they really need someone who could help out in the run game, but also just help out those that interior offensive line, which was quite frankly a mess these past couple years. Getting that under control really works, and so it's always nice when a position of need falls to you. There were some other positions of need, like outside corner, which I'm kind of shocked they didn't go out and address. But they did address edge. Chris Braswell is the edge that they decided to go out and get, who, again, it's a position of need, right? Joe Tryon-Shoyinka just has not shown enough to trust him. I like Yaya. I think he's good. But again, you need more than two guys ideally. So even if Tryon-Shoyinka had been good, it would still be a position of need. I think the concern of Braswell is his run defense, which has not been stellar, and that is why he fell. But one thing you have to keep in mind of a guy like him as well is the tape you're watching, it's Alabama tape, right? He played for Alabama. It's the same thing with Dallas Turner of some of the stuff isn't going to look quite as good, but it's because you're going up against better competition. Some of these guys who play at small schools, when they get to play even smaller schools, like you're going up against guys who are, not NFL level players, so to speak. And because of that, you can kind of put up more highlights and stuff like that. So, and that being said, Braswell still put up his fair share of highlights. I think he's a really good player, and I think, he was 55th on the consensus big board. I think that was too low. He did make my top 50 prospects board, if I remember correctly. So, I like this pick a lot. This is maybe my favorite selection that the Buccaneers made here. Tyreek Smith, this is a weird one. I am someone who always says don't worry about need too much, and then when my favorite team doesn't worry about need, I'm like, what are we doing? We need this. I get it. I understand that, as a fan, you just want to fill up the needs that you have on your roster. But I think Tyreek Smith, the thing is, so I don't know. I'm kind of conflicted on this pick. So let's talk about what I dislike about his pick first, and then we'll talk about what I like about it. I don't know where he's going to play because you added Jordan Whitehead and you have Antoine Winfield. Maybe there is some, hey, we don't know if Winfield is going to be here next year. He, is on the franchise tag. So maybe there's this is an insurance policy for someone like Winfield. Maybe. But, I wouldn't love spending pick 89 on that. So is he going to play is a question that I think you have to ask yourself with someone like Smith. And also, according to consensus big board, this was a reach. Was projected to go 126, getting selected 89th. But he was projected to go 126 because he's a very scheme-dependent player. He belongs in a Todd Bowles scheme. That's where he should be, and that's why I'm kind of excited about this pick as well, because, again, just watching his highlights, it's like, oh my God, this is the perfect guy for Todd Bowles. He just is. So, I did, he was someone I evaluated as well. I didn't just watch the highlights of him the way some of these guys toward, in the 200s, I kind of have to just catch up on. But for someone like Smith, a lot to like about him. Not everything is perfect with him. I think that's fair to say, but I think that the scheme fit works. Will he play? Guys get hurt. and sometimes you want three safeties in. I have him listed at corner. I think he's more of a safety corner hybrid type guy. But yeah, I think I'm interested in seeing what he can do. I mentioned earlier they did not address outside corner. Tyreek, am I calling him Tyreek Smith? Tyke Smith. Sorry if I'm saying his name wrong. I don't know why my brain like auto-corrected that to Tyreek. No, Tyke Smith, apologies, is someone who, he's not an outside corner. He isn't. So that's just not. Don't think, maybe it's not Madden where you can just grab a guy at corner and play him on the outside. There's more position. It's that's not what he is. So I guess they like Zion McCollum, which is kind of concerning. But maybe Zion McCollum will play better in year 3. Anyway, Jaylen McMillan, wide receiver out of Washington. Really like this pick. I like that they're still addressing the wide receiver depth, as they've struggled with wide receiver depth. Godwin still had a good year, but maybe not what we usually expect from Godwin, and Mike Evans is still Mike Evans, but they need depth there. Jaylen McMillan, not the super athlete some other wide receivers are. He's just not, but he's someone who is really good at just understanding the nuances of the game, finding ways to get open. Maybe the smartest receiving room in football now with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and McMillan, 3 really smart guys who can, know how to get open and can use that to help set each other up and, have that work. Jason Light, obviously was great with Godwin and Evans picks at wide receiver, has kind of missed on some wide receiver depth picks in the past, but hopefully this one is a hit. And again, very impressive highlights McMillan has. Bucky Irving has some really impressive highlights at the halfback position. He did not make my top 5 running backs list because I care a lot about blocking, and I know some people say, who cares about blocking? We want him to run, but at the end of the day, this guy, he had to start sitting in the tight end meetings because he was not blocking well enough at college, and it's not going to get easier at the NFL level. And if you can't block, then all the team has to do is blitz you, send a linebacker in a way where the halfback has to block, and you're going to get these immediate pressures. You're essentially getting cover 0 without having to go no safety deep. Like, that's just a huge mismatch and a huge danger. And running backs who can't block don't make it in the NFL. They just don't. You have to be able to at least be okay at blocking. I don't need you to be Leonard Fournette back there pass blocking, but you got to be able to get in the way of guys when necessary. And the Buccaneers saw that with Ronald Jones, who was a very good runner, who just wasn't a great blocker, and that's kind of what ultimately led to him not being a starter anymore. And Irving is significantly worse as a blocker as Jones. Yes, that's true. I know Bucs fans might say, what are you talking about? Jones was horrible. Yeah, Irving's significantly worse than that. So that's the concern. Then a couple of, reaches according to the consensus big. Although, I should say some positives about Irving as well. Is a really good rusher. I do think maybe could be like a third down back. Again, the blocking is concerning there, but like could be a good pass catcher, makes some good highlights, and it's a position of need for Tampa Bay. Could use some depth there. So I understand it. It's just not my favorite pick. Next couple of picks, we're into 200s now. So, but I actually think they had a couple of, the Elijah Klein pick is very fascinating. So, he was, drafted out of Texas El Paso, which is not a massive school by any stretch of the imagination. Had incredible numbers and advanced analytics there, which again, not going up against the toughest competition, so kind of makes some sense. But again, Tampa Bay has had some success. Obviously, Ali Marpet comes to mind. Sometimes just get the good offensive lineman that isn't on the biggest school. Sometimes they can work out. For pick 220, I have no issue with it. Even if he was projected to go undrafted, I'm fine with it. Where there's 257 picks, sure, no issue there. Devin Culp. At 246, we've seen Tampa Bay do this a couple of times. When they had Mr. Irrelevant, they spent it on a special teamer. I think Devin Culp is just a special teamer. I don't think they're expecting him to do a lot. Maybe he could be tight end depth. He has, been a tight end in a, effective offense. He's from Washington, so him and Jaylen McMillan will both be able to, go from one, being teammates in college to being teammates in the NFL. That's fun. But as a whole, I'm not expecting much more than special teams, but hey, special teams matter. So as a whole for the Buccaneers, a couple of picks I didn't love, some picks I really did like. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. What were your thoughts on Tampa Bay and what they did? Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.